words like money or sex, they're extremely charged. But what it means is that that word has power over you. Yeah. So it's not about now talking about sex all the time and that your whole life becomes about sex. Yeah. What it's about is getting to the place where you can talk about sex in the same neutral way as you talk about what are we going to have for dinner? Yes. That's actually the place we want to get to. Yes. So we don't want any intense emotions. It's just, it is what it is. It's neutral. When it triggers me, I know there's something to look at.
Hey guys, it is Alison. I am the host of your show, Alison Answers Mission Awake. I cannot wait to sit down with you today and go over how we are going to crush the mediocrity in your life that has been plaguing our society since the beginning of time. I cannot wait to have a real deal conversation that includes intelligence, fun, excitement, and real actionable steps to make a real difference in the life that you're living now and making it into something you can be damn proud of and excited to live. Sit down, put on your damn seatbelt, and get ready for the ride of your life. Hey guys, how are you today? It is Alison from Alison Answers and Longer Counseling Services. My guest today is Magda Kay. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Magda Kay is an intimacy expert, certified Tantra teacher, speaker, and author on a mission to help individuals around the world experience more love, more pleasure, and more intimacy. For almost a decade, her advice on relationship dynamics has helped countless singles and couples alike live more fulfilling and authentic lives in and outside of the bedroom. I can say that has been one of my missions as a therapist, owning counseling centers. It's been so important to me to break the epidemic of sexless and loveless marriages and to help people embrace their sexuality, their femininity, masculinity, and their identity, and being able to be more free sexually and emotionally in relationships. So I'm really excited about this guest. Magda had embarked on a journey of sexual healing that led her to Bali, Nepal, India, and Thailand. She studied Tantra, conscious sexuality, yoga, body work, and energy healing. And today she helps to spread these vital tantric teachings around the world. With a degree and background in business, Magda has a natural gift for translating esoteric concepts into practical, easy to understand ideas that everyone can enjoy the fulfilling, intimate life they deserve. And that's my mission. I love it. Magda is the founder of the School of Intimacy, an online academy that teaches people essential skills for building happy, passionate relationships with others and themselves. This year, she published her first book, No More Faking It, a guide for women to living a more fulfilled life. This is such a much needed gift to the world that this woman is bringing. She also works one-on-one with individual clients, both online and in person. So I'm looking so forward to getting to know Magda and getting to hear like her insight and wisdom in this area. I hope that you guys really just sit back, take notes, allow it to, even if you don't think that this is something you need, I think it's something we can all awaken to and just like have an open mind and try to really understand ways to improve our intimacy and our love of self and our love for others. So without any further ado, let's bring her on. Hey guys, how are you today? It is Alison from Alison Answers and Lager Counseling Services. Now, I gave you guys the bio first, but then I went behind the scenes with Magda Kay and got to know her. And I'm so excited. You know how people say on a podcast, oh, I'm so excited for this guest. And everybody just like repeats that thing. I'm actually genuinely excited because she speaks my darker side, this woman. And okay. So I already did the bio, but what I want you to understand to frame it for you, anyone who's listening, is that you're going to have at the end of this podcast, you're going to have a deeper understanding of your own intimacy with yourself, with others, the parts of you that feel ashamed of different parts of your sexuality, the parts of you that have difficulty in relationships and a whole bunch of other stuff. And what I want to just forecast for you guys, because I want you to really listen in. If you feel like you want to like shut this off because it's about sex, or you find yourself having like any like little inklings of discomfort, or like you want to call us whores for talking about it, I would suggest that you stay and just push past that part of yourself and just be willing to like expand yourself as a human being. So, and when I had no idea who this wonderful woman was, and then, you know, it's just so much more than sexual intimacy that she's going to share with us. So without any further ado, I just want to welcome you, Magda. It's such a pleasure to know you. I feel like we're going to be fast friends. So tell us how you ended up being an expert in, what would we call you? Like an expert in sexual intimacy, in intimacy at large? Like, what would you call yourself? Tell us about
so first
you.
of all,
yes.
Thank you so much for this incredible introduction. And I am also very, very excited to be here. And, you know, all the little things we'll be diving into. I also want to say thank you for what you said about the fact that if someone feels uncomfortable, stay, challenge yourself. You guys, it's not like I, you know, always wanted to do this for a living. I used to be extremely suppressed and shy. Anything about sex was just hugely uncomfortable. So I am amazed still that it's such a natural, comfortable area of my life right now that it's so easy to talk about it, because it definitely wasn't like that. Yeah. But to answer your question, so I like to call myself an intimacy expert, because the word intimacy is so much broader than just sexuality. And I think, well, even with the word intimacy, people often assume I'm sort of like a sex worker. So then I have to explain to people what it is that I do and what it is that I don't do. But I think it's interesting because it definitely shows the, you know, misunderstandings that we have around what intimacy is, what sexuality is, because intimacy goes way beyond this. And the fact that we equate it with sexuality is one of the big problems that we should face and discuss in our society, because we all have the need for intimacy. Children have the need for intimacy. And so as long as we put it in the same basket as sex, and it's like, oh, you know, it's so uncomfortable to talk about sex, then we don't talk about intimacy, which is actually a fundamental human need.
Yes.
We have studies which are a bit scary. That's not necessarily what they were testing, but we have seen that little babies, if they don't get enough intimacy, they're not going to make it. So like we literally need intimacy, again, based on other studies, even more than food, to grow healthy. So this is something we really need to start talking about more and removing these layers of shame, because otherwise we're never going to meet the need that we all have.
You know what I love? And I want to mostly just hear from you because you have so much to share. But when it comes to intimacy, I've seen in so many marriage counseling sessions and that two people can be arguing over a word, you know, and to operationally define a word, you know, it's become interchanged with a sexual act or sexual intercourse, intimacy. That's like replaced that word. So what I would say to people is that into me see, because someone could even, when you use the word, and I felt it in my body, which is so interesting. When you said the word intimacy with children, I'm sure everyone who hears it, we immediately feel that like thing, because we immediately think that it's sexuality.
Yes, so then we think it's inappropriate, right?
Yes. But into me see is this like deeper connection. And I just want to piggyback quickly, because you referred to a study, and I know you know the study, but when they did that unbelievable, painful to know study with those monkeys, those baby monkeys. Well, there were like 3 baby monkeys, one with a wire mother that just had like food, one with cloth, and food, or I'm trying to remember the whole thing.
Yes. So basically, yes. So they're testing, and these were like fake moms, or you could say it wasn't a real monkey mom, but one of them was, like you said, just kind of like this machine made of metal that had bananas, and then the other one was covered with some fur, so it was very comfortable to touch. And what they saw was that the baby monkey would choose the comfort of that fake mama over food. So I mean, I'm glad we haven't done studies like this on humans, but even for those monkeys, because
monkeys is horrible.
It is really horrible, and it's difficult to test these things because it literally causes profound trauma.
Yeah.
So we know it's not ethical to test it.
No.
So in a way, we make some assumptions, but I would say better let's make assumptions than traumatize some kids.
I agree.
In the name of science.
Yeah. And there's been a lot of that a long time ago. But so tell us, you were telling me so many amazing things. How did you come into being an intimacy expert? Like, what drew you into this?
So yes, I always love saying, like, guys, like, it's not something I ever dreamt of doing. In fact, like about 10, 15 years ago, it's like, if I could never talk about sex, I'd love that. Just like, nope, the topic doesn't even exist. But here's what happened. So I come from a household that had some form of pathologies, let's just say. And unfortunately, I wasn't exposed to a single example of a happy couple. So I grew up extremely cynical about love. I was very scared that I would be like my mom. So I just felt like I wanted to stay away from relationships, because if I ever get into a relationship, someone will see like who I truly am. And I didn't want to see that part of myself. So I stayed away from love. I was fully ignoring this. And I was compensating with partying and drinking and occasional drunk sex. And then when I was 27, this is when I first got into a real relationship. Now, as it normally goes with our first love, of course, I thought it was going to last forever. And it didn't. And the reason why it didn't is because I wasn't having orgasm, and he was taking it very personally. And that basically made us drift apart. Now, back then, I didn't know how to talk about this. I felt extremely shy. So we're just like pretending that it's not an issue. Of course, now I would approach it very differently, but I didn't have the tools nor confidence to do it back then. And so when this relationship ended, also, I got extremely depressed. I had suicidal thoughts. I wanted to harm myself, because what it really was for me, it was the first time in my life when I actually allowed myself to feel pain. And so the pain that I started feeling wasn't just the pain of the breakup, but the pain of, my dad going bankrupt when I was a teenager, me thinking I had cancer in my early 20s, like all of these very difficult things that I had gone through. It's like it was the first time I finally felt it all. So it practically destroyed me. So on one hand, I started looking for healing. And that's why, I explored energy healing and all these alternative healing modalities. And then on the other hand, I knew that I had to look at my sexuality. And some of the healing sessions I was doing, those healers would ask me, was I ever abused? Is there any story of abuse in my family? Because they can sense this energy. Nothing happened to me. So I didn't know where this energy would come from, but I knew I wanted to go into sexual healing and Tantra, especially the sexual aspect of Tantra. And so I was very committed, very determined. We're talking back in times when you couldn't just Google Tantra and find something. It's not like today. And slowly, I learned about this ashram in India. So I went there, and I found this the school in Thailand. I went there and I lived there for quite a few years. So I started going deeper into this, but all of it was for my healing. It was about my sexual blockages. Like, I never imagined that I would be teaching this. But, something I realized while going through all of this is that what our modern world knows about human sexuality is so limited. Like, even people who say that they have like great sex, still what they experience is maybe like 30% of what's truly possible in our body. And even sexologists have no idea about the other 70%. And so I started seeing, like, no wonder I wasn't having orgasm. No wonder so many other women struggle. No wonder so many couples don't have sex after some time. because we totally don't understand the depth of sexuality, and we don't understand what intimacy truly is. And so I naturally started teaching these things. And yeah, look at me now. This is what I do now. This is my job.
Can you share with us like what you had to, when you were going to these different places and you were looking to heal or remove these sexual blockages, what did you, how did you do that? How did you discover it? And can you define for everyone what Tantra is also?
Yes. So maybe let's start with the definition of Tantra. So some of you guys may have never heard it. You're like, nope, no idea what it is. Others may say like, oh yeah, Tantra is sex or open relationships and sex parties. So it's somewhere in between, I would say. Tantra is a spiritual path. So it's very similar to yoga. Now, traditionally, if we look at the history, yoga was actually practiced by men and only in certain classes in India. So it wasn't allowed for everyone. Tantra was created in a way in response. Tantra was very inclusive. So women could practice Tantra, all classes, social classes could practice Tantra. Meat and sex was allowed in Tantra. So it was quite scandalous, we could say. So it is a spiritual path, meaning that there is meditation, there is breath work, there's a lot of deep practices. But because Tantra has always made space for sex and sexual energy, these days people follow Tantra because it's pretty much like the only philosophy that offers tools for healthier and better sexuality. So it's a bit like with yoga, people have taken yoga and just turned it into, a stretching workout routine, when yoga is so much more. In fact, you can practice yoga without ever going on a yoga mat. So a similar thing happened here with Tantra. Now, I have nothing against it because I still think that aspect, that part of Tantra is really needed. So if that's the only thing people take, I still think it's great. So now, when I was going into Tantra, I was specifically interested in the sexual practices because I was looking for my own healing. So let's just say that the path was intense. I won't lie. It was really intense. Mostly it's when I got into the tantric community that I started going into these practices. Like, I'll give you an example.
Is it actually people having sex?
Yes.
I just really need to understand this. I didn't even know this. Like, where have I been? I'm like under a rock.
Alison, I'll tell you
this. I think
this.
I'm like healthy. Wait a minute. Like, all right, is this like orgies and stuff? I'm sorry.
Yes,
I'm going to ask what everybody's thinking. That's what Oprah does. Okay. I'm going to ask what everybody's thinking. Is this like, what's going on? Okay, tell us.
So I'll tell you quite honestly, now that I am out of this community, when I look back at it, I want to know.
Is the question.
It's like, the truth is, it was a sex cult.
Holy shit. Let's just call it what it is. Getting into. Okay. All right.
But I will say this.
Are you out of the sex cult?
I am. So here's what I will say.
Thank God. Okay.
There was manipulation and there were some practices which were not very healthy.
Yeah.
And so essentially, actually, the school that I was in practically closed down because there were a lot of accusations of abuse and rape. Wow. So not everything was done right. And this is unfortunately something we do see. There's a lot of spiritual communities. I know it's not going to sound nice, but often when they're run by men, there is a lot of power struggle. So unfortunately, a lot of tantric communities, they're run by men. And men, the sexual experience in a male and female body is extremely different. And what I have found to be true is that even the most open and conscious men, they're not able to relate to what it feels like to invite someone into your body. This is so vulnerable and so intimate. So there's a lot of like pushing, you should have more lovers and you should be having more sex, not understanding that this can actually be traumatizing.
Yeah.
So sex rarely is traumatizing for a man, but very often it is for a woman. And it's just a different experience.
Yeah.
So yes, things like this were happening, but I'll tell you at the same time. So for me personally, nothing that I look back at that I did felt like any form of abuse or that it traumatized me in any way. Everything I have done is what I wanted to do. I did maybe sometimes rush things a little bit too much, and it was a lesson for me, but I only engage in what I wanted. Said that, yes, so there's a lot of sex going on, also having tantric
sex. I had no idea that that's what this was.
Yes. Okay. But that's why I was there. So it was a conscious decision for me. And honestly, I have connected with incredible men who allowed me to actually, for the first time, see the energy of trauma that was stuck in my body. And I want to give you one story.
Yeah.
So it was my first tantric partner, and we're making love. And like, he was just amazing at how he like held me energetically. And at some point I'm like,
was
wow,
this somebody that you loved?
No. It wasn't love, but I was definitely into him. I really liked him. And here's something you have to understand about Tantra. When we practice Tantra, we experience a very profound opening of the heart, because that's part of the spiritual practice that we do. We want to open, may sound a bit woohoo for some, we want to open the higher chakra, so the heart and above, which is also our spiritual connection. So love at the level of the heart chakra, it's actually divine unconditional love that most humans, we don't have access to it. Like even mother's love is conditional. As humans in this reality, we may have glimpses of that, but that's it. So a lot of spiritual practices focus on opening the heart so we can feel love with life, with God, loving ourselves. So when you do these intense practices, especially when you start having sex in a tantric way, which is all designed to move energy through your body and open this heart, when you're with someone in that space, you actually do experience these glimpses of unconditional love and that state of oneness, which is something we know from spiritual communities, that sense of being one with another human being or with the whole universe. So you actually get to feel this. Not all the time, not fully, it doesn't last, but you have glimpses of that. So tantric sex gives you those deep spiritual experiences. So did I love him? No. But did I have the experience of this, beyond human love with him? Yes, absolutely. So I think like my body just felt very safe with him because of that. So I remember we were making love, and for the first time I actually started feeling pleasure inside of my body like I had never felt before. And he said, in this moment, he says, "Oh, you're enjoying this." And the moment he said that, I just shut down.
Yeah.
And again, he could feel it, right? So again, he was so in tune with me. Like, that was beautiful and so healing, because I hadn't had this experience before with any of my partners. So then what he says, it's like, "Oh, what happened?" And I told him that when you said that, I felt like a slut.
Yeah.
So all of this shame and conditioning came up. And so then he asks me, "What's bad about this?" And I was just like, "Oh," and I was like, "Nothing." And the belief just literally left my body, just like that. So I was amazed, because he basically offered coaching to me during lovemaking.
Yeah.
And it worked. It worked. It was incredible.
It changed your belief.
Yes.
I think that's very common with women, that if they, or maybe all people who are looking at women, I'm not sure it's societally, that if you are enjoying something sexually, somehow it's linked to you being a whore.
Yes.
I'm not sure the reason why, but to communicate, yes, I like that. Somehow there's some blockage in women.
Well, okay, look at this as well. So this is a joke, which, if you think about it, is really not funny. Yeah. So the joke goes like this. If a lady says no, she means maybe. If she says maybe, she means yes. If she says yes, she's not a lady.
Oh.
The point is that for so long, women were not allowed to ask for pleasure. So it's, and I always like
sexual pleasure.
Exactly. All of it. Yes. Yeah. And so I always tell men this, because he's like, "Oh yeah, like I got her," or something like this. I'm like, "Well, was she shaved? If she was shaved, trust me, you didn't just convince her. She knew what was going to happen."
Shaved,
right?
You tackled her to the ground and you took her, you wild, strong man.
Yeah. Isn't like
No. Yes.
if you're out on a date with her, you end up having sex and she was like perfectly shaved, it means that she knew what was going to happen. She just didn't say it. And this is a big, big, big problem that we're still dealing with today, is that women are too embarrassed to just say, I want to have sex with you. I want you to kiss me. So we kind of give, indirectly, we try to show that we want something more, and like, oh, I don't know how it happened. And the problem is that women are not owning their yes, and men also are trained to think that if a woman says no, it's just because she's too shy to say yes. And so they don't respect our no, they don't respect our boundary because we don't say yes. So both men and women, we really need to learn better communication. Like women really need to start owning our yes and just ask directly for what we want.
Yeah.
And men need to really respect our no, that no means no.
Yes. And, so this is so good of a conversation, because no matter what, I just want to say something to any of the people out there who are listening, because I'm going to tell you, when I heard Tantra, I was a little shocked. I was like, holy, wow, this is controversial. I'm in trouble. But there's a part of me that likes trouble a little bit. So I'm like, all right, I got this, is good. But now I'm thinking, any part of you, I'm doing a little touchdown on this, that feels shut down, let's just go, because take a look at yourself. I'm doing it myself right now. Any part of me that has, and this is like the psychology, just so I want to say, Magda. So like, I have people do this anyhow with all different areas. So how come, like in marriage, we can have conversations about everything. What meaning is attached to this? Finance, kids, all this stuff. And somehow the sexual part of the relationship is sectioned off, or it's separated from spirituality, from God, all of these things. But it is the highest form. It's like it's the life force. And it's not just, and we've attached sexual pleasure to deviance somehow. Maybe because people have made it deviant, which could happen, right? Obviously it does, hurt people with this beautiful life force. But I don't even know what I'm trying to ask you, but I think, because I had a question originally and I lost it. But
I can speak to this.
Yes,
so we spoke about this before, just in our before recording. We talked about the fact that certain words are really triggering because they're really charged. And words like money, or sex, they're extremely charged. But what it means is that word has power over you. Yeah. So it's not about now talking about sex all the time and that your whole life becomes about sex. Yeah. What it's about is getting to the place where you can talk about sex in the same neutral way as you talk about what are we going to have for dinner.
Yes.
That's actually the place we want to get to.
Yes.
So we don't want any intense emotions. It is what it is. It's neutral, right? And then sometimes we can be more serious. Sometimes we can be more playful. But if you find yourself triggered by any word or any discussion about anything, like you said, any area of life, it's a sign for us. Okay, there's something there. Like there's a lot of things in life that I don't support, that I don't like, but it doesn't mean that it has to trigger me. When it triggers me, I know there's something to look at.
Let me ask you this. Okay. So now, as a therapist forever, if I could talk about anything sexual, like, and some of the therapists here are like, oh my God, I'm like, you have to talk about sex with your clients. You can't just not talk about
it. Yes.
But now let's go another layer. Now, as therapist, easy, because I'm used to it. And it's like, it's just part of being a therapist. But we were talking about all those charged words that would identify, in my world, a woman. And I hate admitting that this is true, but like using language, for me to use language that I have associated with, I don't know, like trashy, or like being like a whore or something like that, which is judgmental, obviously. It's just a word. But the identification, like I have forever used anatomically correct words for every sexual part of a human being and all of it. And I've hidden behind probably being, a therapist, because that's just what we do. We say scrotum. We don't say nuts or balls because nuts or balls are just like vulgar. right?
Yeah.
So, and I actually am admitting this publicly to the world that to me, I have no problem saying vagina, but to say the word, I mean, I can't even, it's so hard for me to even say, like pussy sounds like I sound like a whore if I say that, or so I'm introducing this topic to you right now and letting you run with it because I know there's women on here. I do notice that most men don't feel that way. Men do. I've seen like they don't mind saying any of those. It's even hard for me to say the words. Like I can say the word penis 1,000 times in a row.
Yes.
I actually had a man once say to me, could you never say the word penis again? It's just horrible. Instead of like saying those other words. Okay. So tell me what you think about that. And what would you say to women who are like, just have attached like a dirtiness to it, maybe? And when men say, oh, like a man will say, talk dirty to me. It's like, but this isn't dirt. Like, then you're labeling it dirty.
Yes.
Or naughty. Like there's all this, or bad, right?
This is, I think, one of the most important conversations. And like you said, I don't think men have any big problem doing this, but as women, yes. So there's a few things. Number one is, again, it goes back to how we are not allowed to say yes to pleasure because then you're not a lady. Yeah. So for so long, we were expected to be a lady. And so this just wasn't a part of it. Using any vulgar words was not a part of it. Definitely talking about sex and, the genitals was not a part of it. So this is one big aspect. I want to tell you about my like whole journey with this, because damn, it was a journey. So like you, I never feel comfortable using any words. And then I got into Tantra. And in Tantra, we have these beautiful words. Yoni for female genital.
I'm sorry, I'm interrupting you. It's such a fucking bold move. This girl who can't say these words, and then she's like, "Okay, I'm gonna go into this tantra, like in another country." Like you are a wild woman. Look at you.
There's a part of me that's wild. That's for sure. Yes.
It was like somehow you found that in you to go. All right. I'm sorry.
Look. I will say one thing, and I do believe that our biggest struggles reveal our biggest gift. And so 100%. To be fair, when it comes to sexuality and love, I still struggle. I have my struggles. I haven't figured everything out. But I do believe that this is exactly where my potential lies. And it was reflected to me, again, about 15 years ago, when someone finally named my energy. And when I was already a teenager, I could feel that I was projecting very strong sexual energy, but like what you said, life force, vitality. And I didn't know what it was.
Yes.
So for me, the path of Tantra is very natural because that's how I am built. So I think I was meant to end up there. So I'll say this. But now back to the words. So when I got into this Tantric community, again, because it's very similar to yoga, so they use Sanskrit names. And the thing about Sanskrit language is that the words have extra meaning. So the word for female genitals, it's yoni. And yoni actually means sacred space and the origin of everything, the origin of life. So that was so beautiful. And it already started changing my perception of female genitals, of vagina, of vulva, as in like, oh, it's not anything dirty. Because again, notice what the society says. You stink, you should use like some special soaps, which by the way, no, we shouldn't, because it actually causes imbalances. Yeah. We say, oh, she should be fully shaved, or she's gross. Why men aren't expected to fully shave, just women, right? She should be covered. By the way, no, she shouldn't. It's actually really unhealthy for her to be covered. So there's all of this conditioning that keeps telling us that whatever is between your legs is dirty, gross, and wrong. So then discovering the word yoni was my introduction to realizing that this isn't anything dirty. It's actually something sacred. Now, for male genitals, we have the word lingam, which means a wand. Again, a beautiful meaning. So I was using these words, and I was becoming, through the use of these words, I was becoming more comfortable just speaking about genitals. But then at a certain point, I realized that I still feel extremely uncomfortable about words like pussy or dick. And now I'm saying them just like that because I have no problem. But I realized that I had an issue with them. that I was hiding, like you said, I was hiding behind yoni and lingam because, hey, no one really knew what they meant. So it's like I wasn't officially talking about genitals, even though I was. And I wanted to reclaim these words. Now, there is a book. I forgot her name, so my apologies, but the book is called Pussy.
I actually have that and never read it.
So that was also an introduction to me to the word pussy and to just take it back. Then there is another beautiful book called Shakti Yoni. I believe that's the name. It's like a really massive book about Tantra yoga for women. And there, for example, she was talking about the word cunt, which apparently originally was a positive thing. Like the word cunt was a compliment. It was a positive thing. Wow. So then when you start looking at it, these words were taken and turned into something offensive, which is part of this kind of collective attempt to shame sexuality, right? Because think about it. If we don't allow people to have good words to talk about sex, then they won't talk about it, right?
Very true.
If like, how are you supposed to have an orgasm or have good sex life if any words that you would have to describe your genitals are offensive? Right. So we have to change this perspective. And that's when I on purpose decided to start saying the words pussy and cock and dick and cunt, because I wanted to reclaim these words. I was like, you don't get to steal this word from me. And it got to the point that if anyone calls me like a pussy or a cunt, I'd be like, oh yeah, like I'm not going to feel ashamed, because for me now, all of these words, they empower me. But I worked through that. I had to work through it. But I will be honest, it's amazing not being controlled by these words and by the charge that normally comes with them.
Hey, guys, how are you? Isn't that amazing? This story that we're hearing on this show is great. I want to just give a shameless plug of my book. I would really want people to have a good look at my book and to understand what it really is. I used to be ashamed to plug my book. And then I realized, how is that right? To keep the information, the 30 years of experience that I have, the 8 years of education, the trauma that I grew out of and learned how to manage, and how to manage emotion, all the training I've had in neuroscience and quantum physics. How can I keep that from the public? So it's not, I used to think it was like something I should, be humble about, but being humble is silly when you're keeping things away from people that they need. So what I want to tell you about my book, and I hope that you do get it, because I think it will really help you. I've gotten a lot of tremendous feedback about my book, and that it's really, really of great value to a lot of people. And what it is, it's an interactive read, and there's inside of it, there's journal entries. So as I'm teaching and going through the book and teaching you how to create the life you want by understanding how you're wired, how your thoughts, feelings, how your words, how thoughts are things, and the neuroscience behind it, and how we are programmed from the time we're 0 to 7 years old to live a life of mediocrity or a life of poor design because of meaning that we attached to events when we were children that just became our programming. What I want to tell you is that there is a way out, and it's a simple way. It's very simple. I believe in the simplicity and the grace in healing, and that it doesn't have to be a big work. So I would love it if you'd get my book. It's a best-selling book on Amazon, and it's my first. And I encourage you to get it. It's called The Wake Up Call, an interactive read for building the life you want. I don't think you'll be disappointed. Thanks so much for being on the show, and let's get back to it. So now, I have probably like 3 so important things to say. I'm hearing people who've been like in counseling or whatever, just people like different, we see like an epidemic of sexless marriages, of men who are really, really feel they don't know what to do because they do feel trapped, that they absolutely do not want to cheat on their long-term forever wife, and they're honoring that commitment, but their wife is not interested in sex, and it's just that they're really low energy, depressed, and not knowing what to do. And we've seen that like as an epidemic. And also women saying, listen, I don't know what's wrong with me. I just don't want it, like it. women saying, they feel disgusted by their vagina, whatever you want to call it. They feel disgusted by it. So I love that you're doing this. And what would you say to the man? What would you say to the woman in that situation?
So yes, this is unfortunately common. Yeah. There's a lot I want to say to this.
I know, because it's not just one thing you'd say to them. It's a long-term conversation.
And I'm going to start with something that may sound triggering for some people.
Okay.
But sex is your responsibility. But here's what I mean by this. The difference between a romantic relationship and any other relationship is sex.
Yep.
If you take a romantic relationship and you take away sex, you have friendship.
Exactly.
Now, as long as you choose to be in a monogamous, like sexually exclusive relationship, because you may not, but as long as you do, then you basically ask your partner not to meet their sexual needs anywhere else.
Yes.
Then it is your responsibility to offer that. Now, this doesn't mean that you force yourself to have sex when you don't want it. But what it means is that if you don't want to have sex, it's your responsibility to look at it. Why? It was exactly my situation, right? It's like, so when I lost this relationship because I wasn't having orgasm, like I was just like, let's just hide it under, just never talk about it.
Our little secret.
Yes, we don't have to ever discuss this. Who cares, right? But she told me, like, Magda, no, this is your responsibility to find a way and fix it. And if it wasn't for her, I would be like, I can live without it. And so this is where so many couples are. They're just like, it would be nice to have sex, but I'm not going to push because it's not okay. And so you have to understand that if you have a low libido, something is off. Naturally, we are highly sexual beings. Sexual desire is the strongest desire of all. So if you're not feeling that desire, something is off. Okay? It's sort of like if you wake up without energy, something is off. If your libido is low, something is off, and it shouldn't be ignored. Very often when we're together for many years, we start thinking like, oh, I need to clean the house. I need to pick up the kids from school. Like, these are responsibilities of being together. But intimacy, sexual, emotional, is also your responsibility.
I agree.
And so it's not that like, oh, because I'm tired because I was taking care of the house and everything else. No, because why? Why? A clean house would be more important than your intimate connection with your partner. It's not. So that's to start with, okay? Now, here is how I work with couples when this is their issue. You focus on a woman. So in most cases, like you said, it's a woman who doesn't want to have sex.
Yeah.
Now, I have also met couples when it was the other way around. Yeah. That happens too. So it would be whoever doesn't want to have sex, that's the person you focus on because they're blocked.
Yes.
Now, the reason why it happens more often to women is this. Because hardly any woman on this planet actually gets the kind of sex that she wants. Like, look, for example, let's say my husband, let's say I'm not married. Let's just say I have a husband and he cooks for me. And anytime he cooks chicken, it's always undercooked. It's like slightly raw, right? So next time he cooks, I'll be like, hey, can you just make like a veggie lasagna? Now he can conclude, oh, Magda doesn't like chicken. It's like, no, it's not that I don't like chicken. I just don't like chicken that's not made properly. So this is what happens with sex. Most women get the kind of sex they don't want. So they stop asking for it. Because think about it. If there's something you like in life, like I, for example, love like hazelnut ice cream, right? And any like nut flavored ice cream, I just love it. You do not have to convince me or force me to have it. I want it because I like it. So if she doesn't want to have sex, it's because she's not liking the sex that she's getting. Now, here's what happens with most couples. At the beginning, in the honeymoon phase, where all the hormones are crazy running high, we like cannot keep our hands off of each other. So sex flows, and you don't have to worry whether anyone is getting what they actually want. But over time, when we become more comfortable and more familiar, and the natural desire that comes from hormones and polarity isn't there, now it starts really mattering whether the partners are satisfied. And this is when it is being revealed that most of the women on this planet are not sexually satisfied. So this is why you got to focus on a woman. What is it that she needs? What is it that she likes? Because the moment she gets what she needs, her libido will naturally come back, and then a guy is going to get everything you want. Now, I do understand the frustration that men feel, and honestly, I don't have a better answer for you guys, but think of it this way. If all these years you haven't been doing for her what she really needs, you're kind of paying a price for that. And also, I'm asking you to be patient, but what is your alternative? Not having sex, or having sex less and less until you get to the point where you have no sex at all. So please be patient, focus on her so she starts getting everything she needs and her libido will come back. But what men often do is that they kind of in some way try to pressure, like, oh, but we haven't had sex in so long, or like, whoa, what do you want me to go and see other women, right? So there's some form of like pressure on a woman, which makes things even worse. Because one of the main reasons also why women have resistance to sex with a partner is because women often feel that they are not appreciated, that they do all the work in the house, that like a guy just gets to do what he wants, but she does the things that have to be done and she does things for him. So a lot of women feel that it's more about him than it is about her. So if you now start bringing the same dynamic into the bedroom, she's going to get really angry at you because she'll be like, oh yeah, yet another thing that is for him and not for me. Yeah. So you have to be mindful not to go there. So again, for men, be patient. The relationship needs to focus on her so that she starts wanting to have sex. And then trust me, you're going to have as much sex as you need. I'll go as far as to say that every woman needs sexual healing. Because sexual trauma, this is not, because I'm like, oh, I wasn't raped. It's not that. It's enough that when you were a little girl, that your uncle came and embraced you when you didn't want to be embraced. It's enough that like, it's like, oh, just kiss your ankle, right? Things like this. And so from very early on, we learn that people can touch our body even though we don't want to. And it has profound impact. And then if you had sex when you were not ready, this is so common for women, right? It's like, there's such a thing as female erection. So you're just like a man, like men's genitals need to be ready. Same goes for women. But we don't do this. Like women do not receive adequate foreplay. So most women get penetrated before they're actually ready. All of these are like mini traumas and they can pile up. There's all of these emotions that we carry, the heartbreaks. Most women, if not every woman on this planet, actually needs sexual healing. You will resist it because that's the whole point. If there's all of these uncomfortable sensations in your body, you don't want to feel them. That's why we are numb. That's why so many women don't get pleasure from penetration, because we are numb, because we have hidden all of this pain inside of our vagina, because it's, no one will see it there. It's a great place to hide things. And that's why we don't feel much inside, because we're numb, or we can feel pain. So we need to go through sexual healing. And yes, it's what you say. When we approach sex from this perspective of healing, and this can be a beautiful experience like meditation that opens us and allows us to go deeply intimate with each other. Because again, back to intimacy and sex, you can have intimacy without sex, and you can have sex without intimacy. It's called bad sex. And that's usually what people are.
Did you say bad sex?
Yes.
Yeah,
exactly.
I would say that's bad sex.
Yeah, sex without intimacy is simply bad sex.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
So what I love working with, and especially I think it's great for women, is introducing them to their 4 power centers, which is your head, your heart, your gut, and your pussy. or if you feel more comfortable, your intimate center. I'm fine with both. And actually turn it into a habit that anytime you do something in life, especially those big decisions, and especially anything related to sex, you actually check in with all 4 power centers and ask them if they want it. So before you have sex, let's say, I was recently asked this, is it okay to have sex on the second day? And I'm like, it doesn't matter if it's first, second, third, or 10th. You have sex when you are ready. Your body decides when to have sex, not some dating rules. And when do you have sex? Is when all of your 4 power centers say yes.
How would you describe, you were telling me off camera, like define head, heart, gut, just so people who don't understand it.
And they're very different. So yes, the first one is your head. And what the head wants is logic and progress. So it is like a manager, just make sure everything makes sense. Everything is logical. And we need this because, we have goals in life. We want to make sure we move forward, that we overcome challenges, that we have a plan. So the head absolutely is needed and helpful. Now, the downside or the shadow of the head is that it can push us too much and it can lead to a burnout. Then we have the heart. So what the heart wants is love and connection. And of course, we need love. Like I told you before, I got into my first relationship at 27. So this is for how long I kept ignoring the needs of my heart. Yeah. Now we have to remember that this center also has a shadow. So the heart believes that love conquers all, and it's all good, and it's not really the case. Because let's say again, if I, for example, feel the desire to connect with my girlfriend's boyfriend, no, I shouldn't be doing this because I will be breaking their container. So it's not that the love is the most important thing. So our heart can be very naive, and our heart is also what keeps us in abusive relationships, because then we say, oh, but I know he loves me. He has a good heart. Yeah, but it's a toxic dynamic. And so the heart can be very naive. Then we have the third center, which is the gut in the stomach. And the gut wants to keep us safe and secure. And again, very, very needed. The obvious downside is that it wants to keep us away from trying new things and growing because it's scary. And then the last one, and I think this is really awesome, it's our pussy, our sex center. And she wants pleasure, not just sexual, all forms of pleasure and fun. But the downside is that she just wants instant gratification and she doesn't care about the consequences. So she would be the one wanting me to have sex with my girlfriend's boyfriend because she's just like, oh, let's just have fun. Who cares?
Right. Right.
So these are the centers. I describe it in my book called No More Faking It. And I
look behind her, No More Faking It.
This is it, but I also have one here for those of you who are watching the video. So I honestly, highly recommend it for every woman. Yeah. Now, No More Faking It is not just about faking orgasm. It's about all the times when we fake it in life because we don't listen to those centers. I learned it the hard way. I'll be honest. I learned it the hard way. But now anytime I feel confused, especially in my love life, I check with my centers. Like if I'm not sure about the guy, should I see him? Is it a yes? Is it a no? What to do? I feel confused. Just close my eyes. I go through the centers. So in the book, and you can also get the audio version, there are meditations that help you connect to the centers, and I guide you how to talk to them specifically. So don't worry, you can get it inside the book. But it is about this practice of just closing your eyes and speaking to those 4 centers and understand how they feel about a specific situation, about a guy, about doing something or not doing something. And you first want to negotiate with them and find alignment. You want to get to the place where all 4 centers say yes or say no, because this is when you know that whatever you're going to do honors, like actually fully honors you. Anytime some of those centers say yes and others say no, and you go ahead, you're self-abusing. Stop thinking that you have to compromise, that you have to sacrifice parts of yourself. It may take a bit of extra time, but there's always a way to find little adjustments to make sure that what you do is in harmony with your needs.
I love so much of everything about you. I think you're just a delight. Seriously, I'm wondering if you would come back on the show again another time. I would love to have you again. And
I would love that. I would love that. And can I just take I want to take a moment to say for everyone who is with us and who's still listening, if, like you said, if you found that conversation uncomfortable and yet you stayed and you listened, gosh, I applaud you and I love this. Like, thank you. Thank you for doing something that profound for yourself. Because just being exposed to us talking about sex, that already is shifting the energy in your body.
Yes. Just so you know, all of your information is going to be in the show notes, but where can people find you, first of all? And I want to ask everyone here, if you would like, subscribe, follow Magda, get her book, listen to her audio. It's, you're not going to regret it. And also like and subscribe me. You guys will like just listen and not subscribe on YouTube. Do me a favor, do that so I can do all. Yeah, just do that for me. Okay.
Yes. So as a fellow content creator, guys, it's such a beautiful feedback when you do sign up for our newsletter, when you follow us on Instagram and YouTube, because this is really the only feedback we get, that you guys like the content. And when the numbers grow, it's like, oh, wow, people want this. So it honestly means a lot for both of us, I'm pretty sure. So yes, if you would like to connect with me more, get more content, I am most active on YouTube and then on Instagram. So I think, like you said, it's going to be in show notes, but
tell us what it is.
Yeah. So you can look for Magda Kay. It's Kay. The only other Magda Kay you're going to find online is a DJ. I am not a DJ. So then the other Magda Kay you're going to see, that will be me. So YouTube is under Magda Kay. Instagram is Magda Kay Official. And I would say do visit my website. It's magdakay.com. Over there, if you're interested in going deeper, something I would also, I do highly recommend this. Apart from the book, we have the School of Intimacy, which is the membership platform. And it's my attempt to fill up the gap in our education system, because the one thing we don't seem to really care about the traditional education is the skills that actually matter in life. So the skills to create relationships, to experience love, to have good sex life. So inside the School of Intimacy, we have lots and lots of courses on every aspect, like any skill or technique you need to have a good intimate and love life, you're going to find inside the School of Intimacy. So I highly recommend, especially for people who are into personal development and you just like constantly evolving, allow yourself also to evolve in your intimate life.
Yeah. And you know what, just to support that, I think an overall picture of this is that what we're asking is that you're actually going inward and just telling yourself the truth. Really, if we don't know what to do, like the truth is always available if we go inside and ask wise questions. I can't even recommend this woman enough. Thank you so, so much for being here. I appreciate you. I'm so glad I got to know you. Do you know that this woman's in Poland?
Hence the funny accent, guys, if anyone was wondering.
It's not even funny. It's so glamorous. But anyhow, and especially it's just pussy in the Poland book. Okay, so anyhow, we have to go. I adore you. And it is a wrap. Guys, thank you so much for listening to the show. I just want to say to you that we are all together a part of the Mission Awake, a mission that's going to stop the mediocrity that's plaguing all of us. So if you got something here today, I ask that you would be a part of this mission and you'd share it with whoever you can. Take a screenshot of the show and share it on your Instagram. If you are looking for me, you can find me on social media platform Instagram, Alison Answers, or Lager Counseling Services. And give us a review and subscribe if you could to YouTube, Alison Answers. That's where you're going to get a lot of content. I drop stuff every day, goofy stuff, all different kinds of stuff. 5-minute videos that just get you moving in your day. Have a great week. See you next time.